Way out here, and so now we're going to move forward to the next witness.
Your Honor, the defense will call Samantha Good.
Step forward. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
I do.
Please be seated.
Could you please state and spell your name for the court reporter?
Samantha Good, SAMANTHAGOOD.
Can you just speak up?
And Ms. Good, next to you is an odd-shaped black thing that is a microphone that magnifies voice. And
Okay.
if you're too quiet, we'll make you hold it like right by your face. Could you please tell us what you do professionally?
Yeah, I'm a clinical social worker. I have a psychotherapy practice.
And how long have you been doing that?
11 years.
What's your training to do that?
I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in social work, and I'm licensed in Washington to practice independently, and that requires 3 years of supervised work and passing a licensure exam.
When you say supervised work, is that clinical work?
Yes, supervised
And
clinical work.
Sorry?
Yes, supervised clinical work.
And what is clinical work?
It's work in the diagnosis, assessment, and treatment of mental health disorders.
What is your, so you said you've been doing this for several years. Can you just describe for us that experience?
Sure, what I've done?
Yes.
Yeah, I have experience treating adolescents in residential treatment for adolescents with mental health disorders. I have worked as a clinical case manager with adults with chronic and severe mental illnesses. I have done outpatient psychotherapy with children, families, and adults. And I've done community-based work with children and families in crisis. And I've done outpatient work in my own practice.
You said that you've done psychotherapy. Can you tell us what psychotherapy is? What do you mean by that term?
Sure. It's the treatment of mental health issue or disorder through talking about one's symptoms, problems, thoughts, feelings with a trained professional to either resolve or mitigate or manage the symptoms.
What good does talking do?
Well, I think it can lead to an understanding of what's happening, which I think allows people to decide how to respond to inner states, feelings, conflicts.
Is this some sort of therapeutic benefit that's been shown for people who suffer from mental health issues to talk through it with a therapist?
Yes.
Do you diagnose and treat mental illness?
Yes.
Is there a guide, a professional guide that you use to determine diagnoses?
Yes.
And what is that guide?
It's called the DSM. Now it's DSM-5.
What is the DSM stand for?
The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health.
You said it's the DSM-5. What does the 5 stand for?
It's the 5th version of this book. I think during the time I was treating Aaron, it was DSM-4, the DSM-4 text revision, which is an earlier version.
Can you explain to us how the DSM is utilized and how it's set up?
It lists and categorizes each of the mental health disorders that we know about and indicates a list of symptoms that corroborate with that disorder.
Is the DSM a manual that all professionals working in the mental health field in the United States typically use to diagnose and determine if somebody meets the criteria for mental illness?
Yes.
Is that the standard? Like, is there some other manual that people use, or is this it?
This is the standard.
Can you give us an estimate of how many patients you've treated professionally and diagnosed?
It's an estimate, but I'd say 400. 350. That's my best estimate.
A few hundred?
Yes.
Okay. Back in January of 2012 through October of 2013, did you provide psychotherapy for Aaron Ybarra?
Yes.
How did Aaron Ybarra end up being treated by you, to your understanding?
He referred himself to me.
And when was that?
January 2012.
Do you, without your file, are you able to accurately remember everything that happened in terms of your treatment?
No.
Would it assist you to be able to see your notes in your record?
Yes.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked for identification as Exhibit 192. I want you to take a look at that. Did you look at each section?
I will. Yes. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Does this appear to be your notes and your progress notes from your sessions, your additional notes that you made when you called people, your letters that you wrote, your billing records, and your insurance records on the Aaron Ybarra case?
Yes.
Your Honor, I want to move to admit this for demonstrative purposes only, so that she can refer to it. It's not my intent to either show it to the jury or to send it back to the jury.
Well, she can refer to it without having to admit it for demonstrative purposes would be showing it to the jury.
Well, I'm not intending to, so we'll just move forward then.
Yeah.
I want to talk with you about your general treatment practices before we move forward. How long is a session with you when a person comes in to, let's say, get an evaluation?
50 minutes.
And if you recommend them for ongoing therapy, how long are your therapy sessions?
The same, 50 minutes.
50?
Yeah.
And how do you document what you talk about with someone in a session?
I have a progress note form.
What is a progress note form?
It is, what I use is a template that states the patient's name, the date we met, where we met. It indicates the subjects we talked about, the types of interventions I used, and there's a small four-line section where I write a note about what we've discussed.
For everything above the four-line section where you can write a note, do you have pre-printed information that you can mark quickly?
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of what you talk about, do you have a number of topic areas that you just circle?
Yes.
Okay. And then the four-line area where you can write a note, that's about an inch and a half of space to write?
Yes.
Okay. And why do you use the pre-printed form?
For administrative ease, but it also, on it is listed many or most of the topics that a patient may talk about, and there's a space to write in something if it's not listed.
Can you just review for us really quick what the pre-printed information on the form is?
Sure. For the
under topics discussed?
Sure. There are several, so
Okay.
Relationships, identity, role, occupational or educational problems, childhood or family of origin, trauma, substance use or abuse, dreams, transference, countertransference, grief, loss, anxiety, depression, existential issues, somatic issues, medications, self-harm, mood dysregulation, or other.
And typically, you just circle what topic you talked about,
Yes,
and then in other, can you write in something?
yes.
And then, in the 4-line space, it's maybe an inch, now that I'm looking at it. Does that give you sufficient room to document everything that you and a patient talk about in this session?
No, I would document everything the patient talks about in a session.
Is it intended more to try to trigger your memory if you need to refer to it later?
Mhm. Yes.
When did you first see Aaron Ybarra?
On January 31st, 2012.
When you first saw him, did you have any information at all from any other treatment providers or mental health professionals?
No,
Where did this meeting take place?
at my office,
Which is located?
in Seattle in the Eastlake neighborhood.
Okay. Did you make some initial observations of Aaron Ybarra?
Yes.
What were they?
Mm,